Good day. Today we are looking at two concepts under types of inflation which are somewhat related but are not the same thing, and that is demand pull inflation and cost push inflation. And you are affected. More reason why you need to stay till the end of this class, so you can know how you are contributing to the general increase in price of goods and services, which is inflation in the economy. So you are going to know which one of these affects you between these concepts and which one doesn't affect you, actually, depending on where you are in the economy. So today we are looking at demand pull inflation and cost push inflation. But the first one we are looking at is demand pull inflation. So what is demand pull inflation? Demand pull inflation is a situation whereby consumers have high purchasing power, which leads to an increase in aggregate demand without corresponding increase in aggregate supply. That is, because consumers, you and I, that will go to the market, we have too much money in our pockets or in our bank accounts, and because of this, we are demanding for more product, in which the supply of that product is not increasing. If that ever happens in the economy, it will lead or it will trigger inflation. And that's what we are looking at today, which is known as demand pull inflation. So the question now is, what is the main factor we are considering under demand pull inflation? It is a factor of consumers buying habits. It's a factor of consumers buying habits. So now, how does a graph of a demand pull inflation look like? Here is the graph. Here we are going to have our vertical line, and then we have our horizontal line. Remember, on our vertical line is where we are going to have our price, and horizontal line is the quantity being demanded. Have you seen it now? Now, because here we have our aggregate supply, which is AS, and here we have our aggregate demand. Our aggregate demand, AD. And because of this leads to an equilibrium point. There's an equilibrium point here in which the supply curve meets the demand curve. We call that point of equilibrium. We call this one E1, our point of equilibrium. If you trace the equilibrium point to quantity, and then we trace it to price axis, here it tells us the quantity being demanded, the current quantity being demanded, and this is the current price, which is P1. So what happened now is that because under demand pull inflation, there is an increase in aggregate demand. Take note, increase in aggregate demand. That is, aggregate demand will increase. That is, it will shift outward. And it shifts outward, let's say to this level. Here we now have another aggregate demand. We call this one AD2. This is our aggregate demand 2, whereby the initial one is our aggregate demand 1. Now, because of this, there is another point of equilibrium here. We are going to call that one E2, equilibrium point 2. If you trace this to quantity, and if you trace it here to price, so here is our P2, then here is our Q2. Can you see it now? So what we observe here is that anytime that there is demand pull inflation, is that what? The quantity demanded will shift outward. There's be an increase in quantity demanded from Q1 to Q2, whereby price will increase from P1 to P2. So this is what we know as inflation, because here this is initial price, but price has increased to P2. So that's what we know as a demand pull inflation. So the question now is that what are the causes of this demand pull inflation? Now on the board are the causes of demand pull inflation. The first one is low interest rate. That is, when people go to a bank to borrow money, they are borrowing it at a low interest rate. That will make the people who are borrowing money to go to the bank to borrow as much money as possible, and this will lead to a situation whereby they have much money in their hands. So low interest rates will lead to demand pull inflation. Remember, demand pull inflation is a concept of the consumers. They have much money in their hands, so if they go to bank, they're able to get loan at a low interest rate. It will prompt them to demand for more loan. That will cause demand pull inflation. Another one is low income tax. That is, which is a tax that all workers pay to the government. The government deduct from their salary before they are paid their salary at the end of the month. That if this is also low, that the government is not charging more, then what happens is that consumers will have more disposable income, and this disposable income is what they will spend to buy goods and services, to pay children's school fees, to pay house rent, to buy more clothes, to buy new shoes. All of this will also trigger demand pull inflation in the economy. Another one is increase in consumers' confidence. That is, consumers observe that, oh, economy is doing very well, everything is going to do well, so let me buy more, let me purchase more, I don't need to worry about savings. This can also trigger demand pull inflation. Another one is increase in government spending. That is, when government is maintaining what is known as expansionary fiscal policy. That is, government is spending more money into the economy, building roads, building schools. Remember, when government is involved in any of this activity, the money government is spending, though they are paid to contractors, also goes to people who are working for them, who belongs to household. They have much money in their hand, and because of this now, they can spend more into the economy. That is increase in government spending can also trigger a demand pull inflation. Another one is low corporate tax. That is the tax that government charges companies. If this is also low, these companies now they are able to also pay more in terms of salary, and their workers have more money to spend. This can also trigger demand pull inflation. The opposite of this is cost push inflation. What is cost push inflation? This happens whenever there is an increase in cost of production of goods and services, in which the producer will then pass on to the consumers in terms of high prices. Remember, the producers, they are using different factors of production to make goods and services available to you and her. Now, if there is an increase in these factors of production, such as factors, so that increase in terms of labor, the wages they are paying to the labor, increase in terms of raw materials, increase in terms of machinery, they have no other option than to pass this burden to the consumer. So whenever this burden is passed to consumer in terms of high prices, which means the price has increased in the economy, this will lead to cost push inflation. So therefore, we can therefore say that the factor of cost push inflation, it is a factor of the producers. Is a factor of producers. They are the one who trigger what is known as cost push inflation. Why? Because they are buying their products or goods and services at a high, they are buying the raw materials they are used to produce these commodities at a high price. So therefore, they push this burden to the consumers. So how would a graph of a cost push inflation look like? Now, here too, on our vertical line, we're going to have price, and the horizontal line, we're going to have quantity. So here is price here on the vertical line. Always ensure that your price is on the vertical line. Here is price, and here is quantity being demanded. So what happens is that there is an aggregate demand, an aggregate supply. Here is aggregate supply, and here is aggregate demand. AD. Now, what happens is that because of this point of equilibrium, remember, anywhere aggregate supply meets aggregate demand, there will always be an equilibrium point. So we call this one E1. So if we trade this equilibrium point to quantity, this will give you our quantity being demanded in the economy, which is our Q1. And if we also trace it to price, that will also give you the price being currently charged in the economy. So we call this one the P1. So what happens is, because of the fact that there is an increase in the cost of production, the producer, they will produce less of that commodity. And because they are producing less, aggregate supply will shift inward or will shift to the left. So as a result of that, there will be a new aggregate supply here, So let's call this one AS1, AS2. This is a new aggregate supply, AS2. Now, if we trace this equilibrium point, because this is going to be our E2 now. Here is our E2, the new equilibrium point. So if we trace this equilibrium point to quantity, look at it, quantity. So this is our new quantity known as Q2. What do you observe is that quantity supply has reduced. So it has shifted inward, it has reduced. But what about price? Trace the price. Trace the price axis. What do you have? This is our P2, what do you observe? Price has gone up. And because price goes up, then this is known as inflation. So this is how the graph of a cost push inflation will surely be drawn. So what do we observe from here? That the output, or let me say that the result of cost push inflation is increase in price, but decrease in quantity. So this is the result of a cost push inflation. Question now is that what are the causes? What will lead to producer charging excess price for goods and services that could trigger inflation in the economy? Now, on the board are the causes of cost push inflation. Number one is increase in price of raw materials. Remember, producers, they are the ones using raw materials to produce goods and services. So if they are buying this at a high price, they will have no other option than to increase the unit price of their commodity. Next one is increase in wages. That is, salary being paid to the workers or the laborers. It has increased. Before they used to pay $1,500 per hour, but now they're not paying $1,800 per hour. Then this has increased. This could also trigger cost push inflation. Another one is increase in corporate tax. This tax that government charge companies that they pay. And if there is also government is charging higher corporate tax, then they are paying high to the government. It will increase their cost of production. As a result of this, they pass the excess burden to the consumer in terms of high prices. Then another one is increase in price of imported goods. Goods that are some of these goods, they use them during the cost of production. If this also increase, they will have no other option than to pass the burden to the consumer. Next one is increase in price of machinery. The machinery being used in price of production. If any of this ever happen, it will trigger what is known as cost push inflation. So in this video, we have been able to know the difference between demand pull inflation and cost push inflation. If you want to know more about inflation types, why don't you subscribe to my YouTube channel? There are videos that are already produced on this that can be of help to you. And if you are preparing for WAEC or JAMB, my contact is on the screen. P&G Economics Online. Subscribe. Reach out to me. If there's any training you want or any coaching to help you to know more or to prepare better for your economics examination, be it IGCSE or WAEC or JAMB, I'll be there for you. Thank you for now. Bye.